So getting into office is one step. How do you make sure that once you're in office that you really make an impact? And obviously winning over one seat as a progressive candidate, winning that seat over, it's a great thing. But then there's 434 other faces in the House.
Yeah.
Some of them progressive, but most of them are corporate funded.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that there's pressure in legislation? Like what's the step forward that's going to drive home results for not just people in your district, but the American people?
Well, I think the first step is making sure you're grounded in your principles and values, and your election is built on justice, not on corporate funding. Because once your foundation is solid, you can build up from there. And we're already doing that. So when we win this, inshallah, it'll be with people funding, it'll be with the knowledge people will have that we're accountable to them. Two, then I think that's where the coalition building comes up. I think one area that we lack is because we don't have representation, we're not able to build an effective coalition of young people, of new leaders coming up as well. And this is where like kind of a long-term approach is necessary, and recognizing that it's not about electing just one person, but how do we then build an infrastructure so that in 2026, there's 5 of us running. In 2030, there are 15 of us running. By 2050, there's 100 of us running, right? And so that coalition to me means mentoring young people, getting young people from diverse communities as interns, helping fund local and state candidates, canvassing for them, getting them financial resources, helping them with digital strategy. And then once, as you're building that coalition, you are adamant in pushing the Overton window back in a direction of justice. The Overton window is so far right now that even something as simple as immigration policy, whereas asylum as a human right is on the chopping block to cut off asylum, which is just absurd in my view, in every sense of the word. And so being able to advocate vociferously, courageously, consistently for these values and these policies that we know are grounded in humanity, grounded in facts, grounded in science, grounded in justice, is a critical component. I think so often Democrats will be on their back heel or on their back foot instead of leaning in and leading the charge to say, hey, here is the way to do this. And I think one of the reasons why they are on their back foot is because they're constantly weighing, okay, if I talk about this, am I going to lose this funding? If I talk about this, am I going to lose that coalition of support from some special interest? And that's why I mean your foundation has to be solid. Your vision to build a coalition has to be committed. And then you need to have the confidence and the courage to lean into your messaging and make sure that you're unapologetic about it. And when I talk about being unapologetic, you're not tied to one idea that can never be changed. You're tied to the idea that I'm doing what's best to uphold justice for working people. And if a better solution comes along, you take that better solution. That doesn't make you a hypocrite or contradictory. It means you found a better solution and you can admit, hey, I thought this was the best way to do things. I've got new information now that tells me this is a better way. So now I will take the good from here and build that better path. I think that is the path forward. And that clarity, again, comes from having a solid foundation where you're funded by people as opposed to corporations and special interests.
And these are all things that we would hope for people who represent us. When it comes to the Naperville community, I mean, you've born and raised in
No, I was born in Pakistan. And then,
born in Pakistan, right.
Yeah, but raised in DuPage County, and then I've been in Naperville for a long time, from a high school teen to a student at North Central College. And now my wife and I live there with our 3 kids who are all in Naperville public schools.
Awesome. What made you move to Virginia, and then what made you move back?
Law school. Went there for law school, got into a great law school program, applied in Illinois. Nobody accepted me in Illinois, unfortunately. But Richmond Law is a phenomenal program, had some phenomenal human rights scholars and professors that I got to study under. And then started working in Virginia. And then after the 2020 election, it was time to move back home and be closer to family. And we're excited to have moved back home. It's good to be back where you grew up as well. So to, I guess, your opponent's point that, you lived away for 10 years, I guess you can't go law school out of state anymore. Well, and that's the irony too, because it's the projection and doublespeak. He grew up in Wisconsin, and he constantly talks about how he started a business that's created thousands of jobs, and those are all jobs in Wisconsin. But you'll never hear him say Wisconsin. He always says the Midwest. So he's very coy about his own verbiage because he knows that if he leans into his youth and his childhood and his business and all of this stuff in Wisconsin, it'll make him a hypocrite to criticize me for spending some time in Virginia. He spent more time in Wisconsin than I spent in Virginia, but that's somehow okay but Virginia for higher education is somehow not. And that's my point, that I don't care that he was born in Wisconsin. I don't care that his business is in Wisconsin, not Illinois. Good for him. Whether that's true or not, and it is true, but whether it's true or not has no bearing on whether people in the 11th district can pay rent, or whether people here can afford to buy groceries, or whether they can afford their health care. And my whole point to Bill Foster has been, let's stop with the culture wars and this nonsensical stuff of who's authentically here or not, and let's talk about the actual policies. And that's what he doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to talk about how he voted to deregulate banks after taking banking money. He doesn't want to talk about how he voted to strip down the Americans with Disabilities Act after taking big box retailer money. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that he voted with Tea Party Republicans to pass legislation that would have charged women more for health care than men, that would have excluded people with pre-existing conditions from getting insurance in the first place, that would have charged more for senior citizens. He doesn't want to talk about that stuff. And so he engages in these culture wars and these character assassinations. I think it's petty. I think it's unbecoming of a public servant. And frankly, I think the American people are sick of it.